Hello and welcome to This Week in Agriculture, a presentation of the Communications Unit, Ministry of Agriculture. I'm your producer and host, Christopher Holder. On this week's presentation, we bring you highlights of Agriculture Minister Zulfikar Mustafa's visit to East Berbice Saturday. He held a meeting at the Central Quarantine Secondary School where he interacted with residents from as far as Blackbush and other areas of Central Quarantine about issues affecting them in their various communities. He also took the opportunity to bring them up to date on the interventions contained in the 2022 budget, which was only recently passed in the National Assembly, and of course now the government's program of activities for agriculture development in Guyana will be rolled out in earnest. We're looking at $28.7 billion in spending money for agriculture this year. So lots of great things in store for farming communities across the country. Transformative projects that will see agriculture going to the next level. We'll be keeping you abreast of those developments as they occur on This Week in Agriculture. We will be back after these messages.
In 2018, the Parliament of Guyana passed the Animal Welfare Act. This act deals with the welfare of animals and provides for their protection, health, and other connected matters. Under the act, it is an offense to subject an animal to unnecessary pain, suffering, fear, or injury. By various methods, increase the aggressiveness of animals. Give an animal any stimulant or illegal substance in order to improve their performance in sports, competitions, and shows. Abandon an animal, whether domestic, companion, while kept under your control. Transport an animal without the permission and the certificate of approval of the means of transport from the competent authority. Use inhumane methods to slaughter or kill an animal. Fail to adhere to the principles of keeping animals as outlined under Part 5 of the Act. Seek the requisite permission to breed 3 or more companion animals for the purpose of selling the offsprings. For more information and details on the Animal Welfare Act, number 18 of 2018, visit the Ministry of Agriculture's website or GLEA's Facebook page. A message from the Guyana Livestock Development Authority, Ministry of Agriculture. Government has committed to assisting coconut farmers across the country in their efforts at expanding their cultivations. This help will come through the clearing of vegetation and digging of internal drainage and irrigation channels. Farmers can also expect help in the form of technical support through NARI and the Hope Estate. Further, coconut seedling nurseries have been established in various regions as part of a decentralization program for nurseries. Coconut seedlings are now available. These are the 5, 3, and 18-month varieties. Farmers are reminded that the recommended number of trees per acre is 50. Persons interested in purchasing seedlings may make contact with Hope Estate on telephone number 663-2709. Once the booking is made, seedlings can be picked up from a nursery nearest you. A message from the management of Hope Estate, Ministry of Agriculture. In October 2016, the Kigali Amendment was adopted by all parties to the Montreal Protocol. This included Guyana. The Kigali Amendment brings the future production and the consumption of refrigeration gases under the Montreal Protocol through the phase-out of these ozone-depleting substances and their replacement with substances that are more environmentally friendly. To this end, the Hydromet Service has begun local preparations for Guyana's ratification and eventual compliance with the requirements of the Kigali Amendment. This will require legislative interventions, consultations with all stakeholders and the public at large about what changes will have to be made locally over the next few years. These consultations will begin shortly and will be advertised on all print and broadcast media platforms as well as on social media. For more information, visit the Hydromet website at hydromet.gov.gy. A message from the Hydromet Service, Ministry of Agriculture. The use of coils as mosquito repellent is a long-established practice in most Guyanese homes. However, in recent times, an influx of illegally imported coils have been flooding the local markets. Laboratory tests conducted on a range of these illegal products have revealed alarming quantities of dangerous chemicals that can prove harmful to humans, especially babies and the elderly. Do not buy these coils. Buy pesticides from licensed pesticide dealers only. A message from the Pesticides and Toxic Chemicals Control Board, Ministry of Agriculture.
Region 6 will be among key beneficiaries of the $28.7 billion budgeted for agriculture this year in the recently passed 2022 national budget. Speaking to residents and farmers on the Central Quarantine area at the Central Quarantine Secondary School Saturday, the Agriculture Minister spoke of the $13 billion allocated to the improvement of drainage and irrigation. He spoke too of the interventions earmarked for Region 6.
This year, we will be spending $13 billion in the D&I sector. We want to procure, we want to purchase this year 34 pumps. You know for a fact that over the years that has been a problem for us in terms of draining, having effective drainage. And as a country, and we are seeing it now that climate change, everybody was talking about climate change, we are seeing it here. Last year, our country would have suffered the worst flood in the history of its existence. We have to prepare for those things. As I'm speaking here today, we have 2 brand new pumping stations that will be constructed, one at Adventure and one in Blackbush Boulder. That will help to drain the land. That will help to drain the entire area. So you who are cultivating in the frontlands, you who are cultivating in Blackbush Boulder, you will have effective drainage. This year, we are looking to build a hope-sized canal in Region 6. You know that hope-sized canal in Demerara when you pass over there by the Hope School? That canal was built in 2014, 2015. That canal finished because in 2005, when we had the big flood in Georgetown and the East Coast, the idea came about by former President Jack Dale said that we have to have a big canal to discharge the excessive water from the Conservancy to the Atlantic. And when we built that canal during his tenure, we were criticized that that canal will be useless, that canal cannot drain the excessive water. And what happened? We have seen the last flood, all the regions in this country were affected. The East Coast was affected, but not so much. Georgetown was affected, but not so much. You didn't have the kind of serious impact on the East Coast and on Georgetown. Why? Because of that canal. All the excess water from the Conservancy, rather than open out it in the Mahika Creek, you got a place called the Lama Sluice. When you open that, it just flood out the entire people them in the creek there. First. We are now discharging that water in the Atlantic directly with the Hope Canal. Likewise, we recognize the last flood that we had, the most affected community in the region was Blackbush Boulder, because you had a number of open lands. The Cook Creek Savannah is a basin that normally discharges the water out through the cultivation and through the housing area in Blackbush Boulder. But the canals that we have to discharge the water cannot take off the flow of those areas. And that is why you have the build-up of water, and Blackbush Boulder was so badly affected. So we recognize that we have to have a large Hope-like canal to drain those areas. And we are working aggressively. This year we have already work started in terms of the consultancy to look at the best area. We have already had discussion with farmers. I've asked the engineer to come up here. Mr. Lionel had discussion. He was up here, the chairman of the NDIA, with other engineers. And this year, that construction of those canals will start. Not only in Region 6, but we'll do a similar structure in Region 5, around the Danzig area. And we'll do a similar structure in Region 3, also in the Hope Canal area. So you could see that we are preparing our sector to be resilient. We know for a fact that we cannot stop the flood, but we have to ensure that we have projects to mitigate it, to reduce it. And that is what we are doing.
Minister Mustafa posited that it is in government's interest to ensure that everything possible is done to reduce the impact of flooding, as not only farmers who suffer losses are affected, but the entire country suffers as a result of the downstream consequence of less food being produced. He further noted that regardless of how much flood assistance is given to farmers after a loss, farmers still need time to get the crops in the ground and wait 6 to 8 weeks for harvest in the case of vegetables, and up to 9 months for certain produce such as ground provisions, plantains, etc. Speaking to the recent flood relief effort, the minister assured that those persons whose names have been submitted as being qualified for flood relief and have not yet received their checks will receive their checks shortly. The Agriculture Minister also told the Berbicians that government is also funding even more research into rice, ensuring its research capacity is boosted significantly.
We are working with the Ministry of Finance to resolve those issues so that they can receive their relief. And that includes the livestock, cash crop, and the rice sector. Everybody whose name was submitted. Only yesterday, I spoke to the Finance Secretary to try to see how we could resolve those issues. But I am just saying that when you suffer losses, not only you suffer it from your pocket, but the entire country feels the squeeze. We have to find flood relief for the people then. We have to ensure that we cannot get revenue because the export dropped. Right, last year we would have dropped by 40% in the rice sector because of the flood. The livestock sector, thousands of animals would have died last year. The entire cash crop sector suffer losses because so much so, we are still feeling the effect. When you go into the market, people are complaining that the price for vegetables and fruits increased tremendously. The permanent crops were destroyed. And those things, when you go now in the market, it's expensive. That is why one of the measures in the budget, we said now that we will implement or restart farmers' market. That is, the farmers themselves who are producing the vegetables and fruit will come out and we'll organize a market for them, and we'll organize the consumer to come and purchase directly from the farmers. So the increase with price from the farmer's price to the market will eradicate that increases, so that the farmers can make the profit, because the farmers are not getting the real profit. They sell to they sold their produce to the middle person, and those persons take it to the market, and they increase the prices. So we now will organize the first one next week Sunday. We are trying to start the first one next week Sunday in Region 4, and I already asked the regional chair and the vice chair here to organize regular farmers market in Region 6, where we can bring farmers to a central point, and we can organize customers to come at that market so that they can purchase directly from the farmers. That is one of the measures we intend to reduce. And also, there are a number of canals and structure this year that we will rehabilitate and construct in terms of the D&I sector.
Minister Mustafa also called on farmers to be more open-minded to the changes that are necessary if they are to grow their farms and produce in conformity with international standards and best practice. He spoke of government's efforts to bring down the cost of fertilizer, which is currently a big burden for rice farmers.
We also have $300 million towards the rice sector, and that will go, most of those money will go to research. We will also complete. Remember, since around 2009, you had that rice facility in Blackbush Folder, in Les Beholden, and last year I made a commitment that we will rehabilitate it. And this year we'll complete it. We have $20 million to complete that. And that facility, when it completes this year, 600 farmers almost will benefit from that to get seed paddy regular from that facility in Les Beholden. So those are the investments that we are making. We are also looking this year, by April, we should conclude the trial for the biofortified rice. You remember last year we had a trial, we went to Blackbush there where we had the trial and we reaped the biofortified rice. That is a very lucrative rice in terms of price. That price will be more higher than any other rice in this country. I am very sure by April we can make that variety available to farmers so that they can plant those rice too. Guyana is the only country in this part, in the Caribbean, and this part of the hemisphere that will be growing that type of rice, the biofortified rice. You know what is that? The zinc supplement. You know when you go to the doctor and the doctor says you want to build up your immune system, like at the pandemic now. Doctors are saying that use zinc tablet that has zinc supplement in it. Now we are growing the zinc supplement in that rice. So you don't have to buy the zinc supplement outside. That will be in that rice that we are growing. So that will be made available as soon as the third trial is successful, and we'll do it across the country too. We have had the GRDB 16. GRDB have indicated to me that the results are very good. We had 39 bags average per acres around the country. We have some farmers who use that variety have said that they've increased it close to about 60 bags per acre, some of them. So we have to continue, because those are the things how we can increase our production. We have to increase yield, first of all, and then we can open up more land. This year also, we see the number 58 and number 52 areas there where more lands will be opened up for cultivation, both cash crop and rice cultivation. We are looking at the east bank of Berbice. I was there a few weeks back, and there are a lot of lands there. Right now what we are doing, we have an ongoing program in that area where we are rehabilitating all the canals so that more lands can be opened up. There are a lot of state land in those areas too. So you all the farmers who are interested should go to Lands and Survey, find out where these lands are available, and you can apply. You can apply.
Speaking to the bigger picture of Guyana's role as the lead agriculture nation in CARICOM, Minister Mustafa shared with the residents President Dr. Irfan Ali's vision of Guyana helping in the region's effort to reduce the collective import bill.
We must not be short-sighted. We must plan for the future if we want to increase and want to move up in agriculture, especially in the rice sector. You see, sometimes what we have been doing over the years, we have been doing subsistence farming. What we done? If you plant a 20-acre rice, as soon as the rice that finishes, you take it to the mill, you take credit from the miller. When you come, you have to cut out half of that credit. We have to change the way we're doing things now. That is why we come and talk about the fertilizer as a government. We know for a fact what is causing the increase in fertilizer. We have seen over the last few months the price for natural gas that make fertilizer have increased tremendously, so much so that some plants have to be closed down. In the United States, it has tripled fertilizers. What we are doing as a country, we is a small country, but what we are doing, we are having discussion with our bilateral partners. We are working assiduously to bring down the cost of fertilizer. And very shortly, because that is why when the Vice President talked about the Gas to Shore project, that is important for us, not only to bring cheap cooking gas, but that will help us tremendously, because when we have our own natural gas, we can get a fertilizer plant here in Guyana and have our own fertilizer to the farmers. So that is why when people are criticizing these things, we must up the Gas to Shore project, bringing the natural gas to shore. That will help us tremendously to reduce the cost of electricity, first of all, to reduce the cost of things like cooking gas, to have our own plant to produce fertilizers and other things. So that project will be very important for the development of our country. And those are big mega projects that the government have embarked on. So when people talking about that project is not good for Guyana, we must up them, because their interest is not in Guyana. They don't want to reduce the burdens on the backs of the farmers. Our president is the lead spokesperson on agriculture in CARICOM, And we are driving, we are leading. The agriculture, the ministerial task force, Guyana is leading that. So those are big achievements for us. And if we are leading the task force, and we want to lead, to reduce the food import bill of CARICOM by 25% in 2025, that means Guyana has to play a very important role. Guyana has to play that big important role. That is why we are diversifying. Whatever we have now, we are consolidating in terms of ensure that we consolidate it, we make it more vibrant, we make it more resilient, and then we are also embarking in new areas. Like we start now production of corn and soya. Corn and soya will be very lucrative because we have a ready market in Guyana. Every year we import over $30 million US in corn alone. We start that project in the Takama Savannah. This year we will increase cultivation from 125 acres to 2,700 acres. And over the next 3 years, we want to take it to 86,000 hectares to ensure that we have enough for the country consumption, and we can also be a net exporter of these things. What we see a number of young people. Also in this year's budget, we have $100 million that is allocated for young people, the young group that the president has established a few weeks back to go into high-value crops. These high-value crops are like broccoli, cauliflower, carrots. We'll do these in shade house, all shade houses across this country. We have already started that in Manripo, where we have a number of university graduates from the Guyana School of Agriculture, and other young people who are involved in, we are now building these shade houses. We have completed about 5, right, already. Eventually, we will build 300 of those shade houses across the country, where young people will start to cultivate these high-value crops. Last year, we would have imported into Guyana, with these 3 crops alone for the hotel industries and other places, $2.6 billion in cauliflower, broccoli, and carrots. We can get the market right here.
The Agriculture Minister was accompanied on his visit to Berbice by his Director General, Mr. Ricky Ramraj, and heads of agencies, including the newly appointed General Manager of the GRDB, Mr. Badri Pasot. Farmers and residents at the meeting were all able to raise with the Minister and his team a number of issues of concern to them, including those relative to drainage and irrigation, access dams, and in a few instances, issues involving land disputes. Most of the drainage and irrigation issues were addressed on the spot, with Minister Mustafa ordering immediate interventions to bring relief to the farmers. In other issues, he has promised to liaise with the relevant agencies such as lands and surveys to have those resolved.
The use of coils as mosquito repellent is a long-established practice in most Guyanese homes. However, in recent times, an influx of illegally imported coils have been flooding the local markets. Laboratory tests conducted on a range of these illegal products have revealed alarming quantities of dangerous chemicals that can prove harmful to humans, especially babies and the elderly. Do not buy these coils. Buy pesticides from licensed pesticide dealers only. A message from the Pesticides and Toxic Chemicals Control Board, Ministry of Agriculture. African swine fever is a highly contagious disease of domestic and wild pigs that is characterized by high fever, bleeding, and death within 2 to 10 days. African swine fever has been recorded in some countries of Africa, Asia, and Europe, and recently in the Dominican Republic in the Americas. Guyana is free of this devastating disease, but there is a risk for the disease introduction due to global movement of people, animals, and animal products. African swine fever is spread when pigs come into contact with contaminated pork products, feed, syringes, and infected materials, such as pigs and ticks. Pork products can carry the virus, even if they have been cooked or frozen. Humans can carry the virus on their clothing and footwear and may infect pigs that they come into contact with. Before traveling, know the disease status of the country you are visiting. Do not visit pig farms while in African swine fever affected countries. Travelers from affected countries are advised not to bring back food, pork, and pork products. Remember to properly clean, wash, and disinfect your clothing and footwear prior to returning or visiting Guyana. If you are arriving from an ASF-infected country, kindly report same to the quarantine officer on arrival and do not go near pig farms for 7 days. For further information, contact the Guyana Livestock Development Authority on telephone number 220-6556 or 7, fax 220-6557 or email glda1910@gmail.com. Government has committed to assisting coconut farmers across the country in their efforts at expanding their cultivations. This help will come through the clearing of vegetation and digging of internal drainage and irrigation channels. Farmers can also expect help in the form of technical support through NARI and the Hope Estate. Further, coconut seedling nurseries have been established in various regions as part of a decentralization program for nurseries. Coconut seedlings are now available. These are the 5, 3, and 18-month varieties. Farmers are reminded that the recommended number of trees per acre is 50. Persons interested in purchasing seedlings may make contact with Hope Estate on telephone number 663-2709. Once the booking is made, seedlings can be picked up from a nursery nearest you. A message from the management of Hope Estate, Ministry of Agriculture. In October 2016, the Kigali Amendment was adopted by all parties to the Montreal Protocol. This included Guyana. The Kigali Amendment brings the future production and the consumption of refrigeration gases under the Montreal Protocol through the phase-out of these ozone-depleting substances and their replacement with substances that are more environmentally friendly. To this end, the Hydromet Service has begun local preparations for Guyana's ratification and eventual compliance with the requirements of the Kigali Amendment. This will require legislative interventions, consultations with all stakeholders and the public at large about what changes will have to be made locally over the next few years. These consultations will begin shortly and will be advertised on all print and broadcast media platforms as well as on social media. For more information, visit the Hydromet website at hydromet.gov.gy. A message from the Hydromet Service, Ministry of Agriculture.
Well, that's all the time we have on this week's edition of This Week in Agriculture, a presentation of the Communications Unit, Ministry of Agriculture. I'm your producer and host, Christopher Holder. Until next time then, be good to yourselves and to each other.